If you play No Limit Hold'em, you've probably seen somebody open a pot, all in, holding pocket aces. It's usually at the beginning of a poker tournament, and when they get called, they're always ahead, and more often than not, that player holds up, wins a huge pot, and is the chip leader at the table. And if you see this enough, you start to think, is that the right way to play aces? I mean, maybe I should incorporate that move into my game. Unfortunately, this is actually a suboptimal way to play pocket aces. I'll prove that to you with some simple math, and then I'll offer an easy alternative where you can actually earn a lot more chips for yourself over the long term. So let's say that we have two aces and we're under the gun. Let's run a little experiment where we play that hand 1,000 times. It's the first level of a poker tournament. Everybody still has 1,500 chips, and blinds are 10 and 20. Now the table's pretty tight, so when we shove under the gun, we're only going to get called by Jack, Jack, or better. So queens through aces, and hands like ace, queen, or ace, king. Out of 1,000 trials, 709 times, not a single player will have Jack, Jack, or better. So unfortunately, we're only going to pick up the blinds for a small profit of 30 chips. The other 291 times, at least one person will have Jack, Jack, or better. And in the cases where more than one player has Jack, Jack plus, for simplicity's sake, let's just assume only one calls. Now, this side of the tree is still a little bit complicated because even though we have the best hand, we don't always win. 48 times we'll get sucked out on, and we'll lose our entire stack, minus 1,500. The other 243 times, our aces hold up for a nice profit of 1,530. Our opponent's stack and the blinds. Now, when you average these profits over the entire experiment, we're earning 322 chips per hand, which seems like a pretty good profit, especially when you consider our starting stack is only 1,500. But these are aces. They're the best starting hand in Hold'em. So you got to ask yourself, are there ways that we could extract more value from the table? And the answer is yes, absolutely. There's a whole host of ways. Let's look at a conventional, simple alternative to going all in, which is raising 3 big blinds. So let's say you bet 60. Think about what this is going to do to your opponent's strategy. Whereas to an all-in bet, your opponent was only calling with the top 4% of hands. To 60, maybe he's willing to call with the top 20% of hands. So Jack, Jack plus, but also going down as far as ace 4 suited, 6, 6, 10, 9 suited. These are pretty good hands for us to be up against with pocket aces. And what this means is, instead of everyone folding 709 times, that's only going to happen 168. So 168 times we'll still only get the blinds. The other 541 times here, where our opponent calls with something between Jack, Jack and this range here, we'll get the 60 pre-flop call. And for simplicity's sake, let's say he doesn't improve, he's always going to fold on the flop. So we'll get the pre-flop call plus the blinds for 90 in profit instead of 30. And the bottom half of our profit tree can stay the same because we'll make the assumption that if our opponent has Jack, Jack plus, he's still just going to call the 60 pre-flop. But let's say by the flop, all the money gets in. So this half of the tree is the same. This 90 up here, though, is going to have a big impact on our long-term profit. Instead of 322 chips, we're going to make 354 chips now per hand. A nice boost of 10%. And truth be told, if our opponent has a hand like ace 4, what do you think he's going to do on a flop of ace 9, 2? We're certainly going to get an extra flop bet out of him. And if he's new enough to the game, we might even get his whole stack.